Writing Critiques.
Hello and welcome to Writing Critiques. My name is Vin, and today we'll be looking at a piece by Reddit user WelcomeToAetos. It is an unnamed work in totality, but this is Talec, the introduction chapter. The genre is fantasy, and you can find the original post in the description down below. You can also email your work to yourwritingcritiques@gmail.com if you want me to look at it directly. With that, however, we'll be going straight into it. I've got my AI assistant lined up here to start reading out, but today we'll be doing a little bit of a different format. So I'll be, instead of letting it play all the way through and then providing my commentary at the very end, I'll let it play, and then where appropriate, I will stop and comment and then let it play again. I might do some forwarding, rewinding. I've actually pre-recorded the readout this time, so it lets me play around with that, and hopefully this gives me a bit of a more dynamic format that lets me comment as I go along instead of having to remember my points at the end. So if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, don't let me know, or let me know as well. That's actually more appropriate. But we'll go straight to it. So starting my AI assistant in 3, 2.
Talec, by Reddit user WelcomeToAetos. Chapter 1. Harbinger of Ill Will, Shadow of the Mind. Quiet Voice in the Deeper Reaches. A Poem of Unknown Meaning, page 2 of Gator Live Mouse by Pauldrus.
Okay, straight up. Curious choice there to open with that epic fantasy-esque. I'm actually not sure of the name of this technique, and I'm not that big of a fan of using jargon for everything anyway, but you know, people have seen this before. So if you've read Brandon Sanderson, if you read there's other major works that do it. I believe Dune does it too in some cases, but the ones I can definitely remember off the top of my head are pretty much everything Brandon Sanderson's ever done. Where you've got, at the head of chapters, you've got a bit of world building done here, and it's an interesting choice. It does set expectations that this is epic fantasy, however, or at least something along those lines, where it's got a deep, expansive world behind it, because you're dropping so many things here. You're giving us a mystery or a set of questions regarding this little bit like poem you've included, and there's Gator Lithmus by Pauldrus, a poem of unknown meaning. So who's even saying that? So it's a lot of questions bundled up, and that's why it's such a effective technique if used carefully and executed upon over the course of your work. So I'd say it's cool. This one worked for me. I like the turn of phrase, harbinger of ill will, shadow of the mind, quiet voice in the deeper reaches. Like it has a lot of interesting I'm going to say proper nouns because deeper reaches isn't capitalized, but I'm not sure if that's intentional. It's just, it gives me a bunch of questions, and that's what you want it to do. And it doesn't sound annoying. It's not too long. I like it. But because I stopped there, I'll start again from the start and let it keep rolling.
Talec, by Reddit user WelcomeToAetos. Chapter 1. Harbinger of Ill Will, Shadow of the Mind. Quiet Voice in the Deeper Reaches.
Like
a
it.
Poem of Unknown Meaning, page 2 of Gator Live Mouse by Pauldrus. A lone figure drifted through the morning mist, a dark shape leaving quiet ripples in the wake of his vessel. He stabbed his staff down into the murky waters below, propelling his narrow canoe through the lily pads. Above him rose massive bald cypress and willows, branches enveloping him like a river reed basket, closing out the dim, yellowing dawn light and trapping in the early morning mist. Below him, the shallow, clouded waters lay motionless, save for the ripples caused by the bow of his canoe and the prodding of his long staff. The waking singing of wrens, bugling of cranes, and croaking of cormorants drifted into the air as the creatures of Heshar stretched their sleepy bones and prepared for another busy day of being alive.
Interesting first paragraph. I liked this opening little salvo here, but the paragraph itself, I have no idea. You give me a lot of description, which is good. It lets me set the place, but I still really don't know who I'm looking at, and the work I'm more familiar with, the work I truly love, tends to focus more on characters than world. It looks like you're a world builder though, so this feels like a world builder's opening, not in so much that you're giving a lot of lore, though you are dropping things like Heshar, etc. And you're letting us know that the wildlife we're familiar with are replicated in this world, so wrens, cranes, and cormorants. So, and canoes, like there's a lot of things here that replicate in our world. So you're letting us know kind of the positioning of this fantasy world you're building up here. And it's relatively well written. So I guess that's your hook. Your hook is your writing style. It's a dangerous hook to use because you are in the middle of a scene because he's already going somewhere, but it's not necessarily the case where I'm feeling that engaged by this opening paragraph. I was more engaged by the opening poem than the paragraph itself. This is a slow open, and just want to warn you about that. All right, let's keep going. I'll rewind a little bit and keep going.
Singing of wrens, bugling of cranes, and croaking of cormorants drifted into the air as the creatures of Heshar stretched their sleepy bones and prepared for another busy day of being alive. Talec of the Gren stretched a tired arm above his head. The same sense of waking was struggling to pry open his eyes and squeeze the morning's final yawn from his chest. He never minded the dawn ride through the morning mist, even on such a brisk day. Any excuse to take this tranquil path through the vine-laden riverways to Islacois, to be alone to rummage through the many questions in his mind, was one he quickly and eagerly accepted.
Curious second paragraph. You're giving us some insight into his character. He's a thoughtful kind of character. He has many things weighing on his mind. That still doesn't really tell me much about who he is. Like, why? Yes, he's got a lot on his mind, but why? And at this point, it's not necessarily a question I'm curious about because I don't yet care. You have to care first before you'll become curious enough to ask questions. And at this moment, I don't really know who he is or why I should care. So the fact that he's troubled or whatever and finds this peaceful is almost meaningless to me right now because he's not really doing anything interesting. He seems to just be on his morning ride on his canoe. I'm shrugging right now. So at the moment, you're losing me, but let's keep going. Now I'll rewind a bit.
To take this tranquil path through the vine-laden riverways to Islacois, to be alone to rummage through the many questions in his mind, was one he quickly and eagerly accepted. The Isla, master healer of this nook of Heshar, lived in a willow hut deep within the southeastern swamp of the Gren. The Gren, the oldest and largest territory in Heshar, had a long tradition of master healers, but none as important as Islacois. In fact, many of the Ailas in the surrounding territories, the Leap, the Varnock, and the Starfek, learned firsthand from his teaching. When the council elders of the Gren record—
Alright, stop. Oh wow, okay. That is so many proper nouns back to back to back, and so many new things I've never heard of back to back to back. This is where you lost me, if anything. And again, it's not necessarily terribly written, it's just way too much up front. Like, the Heshar, the Gren, you can see all the underlines because they're words picking up as misspellings, even though they're not, because they're obviously correct in your world. But Ayla, Varnock, like Talec is the character, but like Ayla Koi, like I can see what you're doing. You're trying to lead me through it. You're going from Ayla, the master healer of his nook, so you're telling me what Ayla is. Heshar, we already know, is the planet or whatever, the just continent or planet. Sons of Gren, so you're leading us point to point. The Gren, the oldest, largest territory in Heshar, so you're leading me point to point. But after about 2 points, I start getting lost. In fact, many of the Aylas in the surrounding, so you're already using essentially okay. In totality, like I have so much to say about this, I need to try to cut myself short. In totality, you're introducing a lot of terms. You're not giving us much time to get used to them, and then you're using those terms almost immediately. So Ayla here, Aylas, first you need to ask yourself whether you need these terms. Do you need the term Ayla, or is that just color? If you don't need it, in my opinion, pick your battles. Because if there was only one term you introduced over this piece, that would be fine. But because you want us to learn Ayla, you want us to learn Heshar, you want us to learn Ayla Koi, you want us to learn Leap, Varnock, Starfek, you want us to learn all these different things, I would start cutting down on the other random color you've added. So there's like a couple of issues here on top of one another. One is that you have random shit like Ayla that you need us to learn far too quickly, and you've already started using it in the middle of sentences, and I'm confused because I don't quite really get what an Ayla is. I suspect it's a master healer, but whatever. Then second point is you're asking us to learn a lot of different things back to back. So you've made up words. You're asking us to to learn a lot of different things back to back to back, and then you're doing it all in this one paragraph. So for example, if you want to introduce all these things over the course of a chapter, that's maybe slow enough. Even then, probably not. But the fact that you're doing it over a paragraph, I'm just lost. So you lost me here. For the sake of things, however, I will let it go on for at least one more segment before we close out the show.
What is the history of this age, as in the surrounding territories, the Leap, the Varnok, and the Starfek, learn firsthand from his teaching.
I'll go back further. You know what?
I just may as well listen to Ilocois, to be alone to rummage through the many questions in his mind, was one he quickly and eagerly accepted. The Isla, master healer of this nook of Heshar, lived in a willow hut deep within the southeastern swamp of the Gren. The Gren, the oldest and largest territory in Heshar, had a long tradition of master healers, but none as important as Ilocois. In fact, many of the Ailas in the surrounding territories, the Leap, the Varnok, and the Starfek, learned firsthand from his teaching.
So on the second reading, I could follow it, but it did require me to read it twice, which is sometimes in your book you need to do that. Have just a really compact sentence. This early in your book, it's too early.
When the council elders of the Gren recorded the history of this age, Talec did not doubt that Ilocois' name would be interred as legendary for the good he accomplished for his people. And perhaps, someday, my name will be recorded along with his.
So, in summary over that paragraph, and I hate to hammer on this over and over again, but I just want to point this out to you. All you're telling me is, there are master healers in Heshar, they're called Ayla, one of them's name's Ilocois, and he's famous. And in that case, like, I don't even need all of that. This guy who I'm following is a fan of Ilocois, who is a master healer. That is pretty much the real important part from that paragraph. And you've added all this world building around it. So I was right. You're a world building kind of guy or gal. This is a world building writing style, and some people like it. I think it's far too disconnected from the things that are important, in my opinion, which is plot and character. World building is, I'm the type who thinks world building is best done in the background. So you will never win me over with this. Maybe someone else would be won over, however. So let's keep going a little bit longer, and then we'll close out.
Talec that Ilocois' name would be interred as legendary for the good he accomplished for his people. And perhaps, someday, my name will be recorded along with his. Talec nearly audibly laughed at the idea of an illness such as himself, a mere student of a master, being recorded in the same important histories as one of the greatest medicine men in the known world. Perhaps as a footnote then.
So that part, you're essentially making us seem or see that Talec is humble, and I think that succeeds relatively well. I'll like from that little part of him, I don't mind him. So he seems to be someone who's always trapped in his own thoughts, even though his life so far seems pretty tranquil. Trapped in his own thoughts, subject to this master who he wants to be like, and he hopes for greatness, but has no real surety that he will truly be great. So he's just a standard, like, aspirational kind of. He reminds me of a kid, even though he's probably not. Cool. I'll stop it there. I would like to go longer, but sadly, I had too much to say about the early parts, and I want to keep these down to 13, 15 kind of minutes. But yeah, I would say your writing style is fine. The content is mostly fine. Like, I didn't see any issues with the world building itself. I don't see any issues with the world you created. It seems relatively followable, and from what little I've seen, logical. It's just the method and rapidity of rapidness of your introducing these new concepts that gets ahead of yourself. And that's one major part of it, but the real major part of it, why I would say I'd give this a pass if I picked this up on the shelf, is that you're focusing on the world rather than the character, and I'm not that audience member. In fact, I'd hazard to say most people are not that audience member, though most people would give you more than probably a page to get their interest. So if the next segment is exciting, maybe you'll get them. And I don't even mean exciting as in action. I mean exciting as in something happening. So far, he's just going places and we're getting backstory. whereas I would like to follow someone as they're doing something and getting backstory as it's important as you go along. At this moment, the backstory isn't being told to us because it's important. It's just being told to us, like, not important to the current situation. It's being told to us because I assume you need us to know this going forward. But in my opinion, it's too late to do that. But anyway, that's my critique of this opening chapter. Well written, poorly structured is my overall assessment. So thank you to Reddit user WelcomeToAetos for the people watching at home. Do you agree or disagree? Go to his post, read the entire thing, and let him know what you think, and post here too. Thank you for watching this episode of Writing Critiques. I will see you next time.